Welcome back and moving on to our first segment for today. While participating in the International Court of Justice, the advisory opinion on Israeli violators in Palestine on Wednesday, Egypt said Palestinians are under the Israeli occupation and have endured forces and also many attacks for years by the Israelis against the Palestinian civilians. Well, over the phone, we have Dr. Hassan Wagih. He's a professor of political science. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, doctor. So first of all, can we shed the light on the statements delivered on the side of Egypt in this court?
Yes, it is a very important move, and I think that this would tell us something very important about the context. You know, when South Africa pioneered the move of going there to get something that would condemn the genocide by Israel, now 50 countries, 50 states in the General Assembly requested something more than genocide and more than the 7th of October. You know, it's a war of context. So the context was genocide. Israel has a very strong argument, of fake argument, of course, but it is strong for everyone who really take it on the surface level. When he said existential threat, Israel is defending itself. Okay, and 7th of October. You know, this argument was orchestrated everywhere. So now the 50 states, including Egypt, of course, are taking the context with what we call a linguistics text trajectory. Let us see the general, the global, the most important context. The context is 75 years of occupation. Leave 7th of October for a while and leave this Israeli argument. Let them defend themselves. It is their possession could not be defended by the legal experts of 50 states, including Egypt yesterday, when they considered occupation as what we call it in legal linguistics, legal oxymoron, which means illegal, totally illegal with using the language of legal linguistics.
Well, when we talk about all what is happening, and still we hear from some countries that Israel is defending itself, talking about this concept, well, how do you see it, and how can they still insist on this point in particular?
Actually, I do not see it myself. Everyone in the world have already watched what happened and considered it's too much, far, far beyond the defending yourself. The United Nations General Secretary said that the Americans who are supporting Israel terribly, some officials said that, so it is no longer defending itself. It is when you are cutting off water, electricity, preventing aid, and destroying that kind of destruction, like like Gaza was bombed by a nuclear bomb. It is unbelievable what happened. It's a real humanitarian nightmare, and no one fair-minded can keep himself silent. And I think when the 50 states, including Egypt, is taking this to the International Court of Justice, we are trying to tell the world, please come and see with fair-mindedness what happened to those people, what happened in this world, what happened to the zero-sum mentality that is being launched with no mercy, with no any human or any international law conduct.
Well, talking about the role of this court first. So what kind of pressure or to what extent they can force the Israelis to stop their attacks immediately?
Well, you know, when South Africa did the request, asked the International Court of Justice to investigate the matter, yes, that was one country. But here, answering your question, the General Assembly and the security councils are the two parties that could ask and request International Court of Justice to provide their legal opinion. Yes, it is not binding, but when you have this number of countries and this number of hearings, the good thing is that we are still here. What is happening from 20 of February to 26th of February, this means that these arguments will be clear to everyone in the world. And through official international organization, the one that's remaining the most important, if you'd like to say that. So, after having examined the Israeli occupation and deconstructing the term, I think when you deconstruct the term, you are really torpedoing the Israeli fake argument about the destruction they caused and the genocide they committed. You know, when you are talking about occupation, you are talking about annexation of land, you are talking about raids on houses, you are talking about changing the future of the geopolitical thing of the occupied territories. You are talking that you are putting the Palestinians under tough surveillance, and that was supported by unfair judicial system against them. So it's against any human rights, against every dignity for any human being living on this earth. So I think that when you are exposing that and getting that collectively with a great deal of people who are really not satisfied with what's happening in the Holy Land all over the world, not only in the Arab world or in Egypt. All over the world there is an anger about that. If you take that opinion and you got everything examined like that, you can take it back to the Security Council by that. You can take the opinion of the International Court of Justice back to the Security Council. But if you don't do that, at least you have created a great deal of investigation and examination of a fake argument, and that would help you internationally and diplomatically, of course.
Well, what are the principles of international law which the resolution should be based on, as they talking about all the attacks and the establishment, the concept of the establishment of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital?
Yes, of course. One of the good things about this hearing is that we remind the entire world, or the 50 states who are really requested and did that in the General Assembly, are reminding the people that there are many United Nations resolutions that are already there. The point, who is enforcing them? Who is implementing them? The time is so right to implement them and to put pressure to implement what the United Nations resolution said. So I think that this will take us to the reform of the United Nations. Of course, as the Saudi delegate said, it is the time for repairing the Security Council and the entire system of the United Nations. This is the only entity that can prevent this zero-sum mentality and try to get the world into a win-win course.
Well, of course, we can see the violation against all aspects, actually, of life and law, especially the law of occupation. And from here, talking about the measures that can be taken and the increasing number of settlers after the status of the occupied territories.
Yes, of course, when you are talking about deconstructing the term occupation or the term illegal occupation, yes, you are talking about, of course, settlements, illegal settlements. And also you are shedding a great deal of light on the violent acts of the settlers. And I think that even the United States of America, Joe Biden decided to punish some of those settlers just as to try to look like he's a little bit balanced, a little bit to the extent of having fair-minded mediation, but he is not. And America is not a fair-minded mediator when it comes to what's happening that really upset every human fair-minded person. And the United States is urgent now to take a totally different stance. The time is ripe for the United States to repair its image and to do something that would really show it's a real international power, and it could play a role that was played like when President Carter played the role Land for Peace, and he was so decisive and he was so fair-minded, and we remember him with good memories in Egypt. Yes, he did that on the basis of Land for Peace, so I think that the United States has a great role that should be played. They did not play it so far, but I think that they are forced to do it, of course, because internally it is against the overwhelming majority of fair-minded people in the United States to see what's happening in the Holy Land too.
Well, actually, when we talk about all the measures that have been adopted, and when it comes to the, let's say, I can just describe it as a positive side, the international conscience or awareness, because we have never seen this attitude by citizens. Years ago, this is the first time to see even demonstrations in the United States by citizens asking to stop attacking the Palestinians and give them their least rights to live as humans. So how do you see this, and how still we need to work more on it and to continue? Because definitely now we can see that all people all around the world, away from their own leadership, they are supporting Palestinians.
Yes, actually, you know, there is a very important slogan to be raised now. The truth is never a lie. The truth became clear for everyone. You know, Israel has went so far for genocidal acts, and it is no longer convincing to any person that Israel is having this element of its arguments like existential threat and 7th of October and defending itself. These three components of the argument are being torpedoed by many, many fair-minded people in the world now. And I don't think that they make any sense. The only sense is that people can get back to their senses. People can be rational. And I don't think that it is only enough for this move to happen, but there should be much more of moves, diplomatic moves, taking that resolution if it comes out, or taking this collective will of the people and try to put it into an implementing track. Because, you know, I have seen that many people, even Harvard University students, are upset. Many people really went for demonstration who are fair-minded, who went for demonstration everywhere, all over the world, in the United States, in the four continents, actually, in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, of course, and in the United States. I think this collective will should have a way to have an implementation. And I think that Arab and Islamic countries really took some good decisions. If this did not work out, they should come up with modalities and diplomatic efforts and compound the diplomacy to get this implemented. Nobody can accept this to go on like that with no end. There is no occupation who is perpetuated like that, and for that long term, occupation should come to an end.
Well, talking about the measures adopted, as you mentioned, and even by the United Nations, they described it as ethnic cleansing. So what is next, or do you think really we can reach a resolution or an agreement that we need to stop this fire immediately, to make a ceasefire and allow humanitarian aid, especially that the Israelis, every time they claim that the point is that we are closing the Rafah border, even though that Egypt did not close the Rafah border, but they are putting more obstacles for Palestinians to reach humanitarian aid.
Actually, the Rafah problem now, many people over the world, including even the United States, who is really not only supporting Israel, but the United States is partner with Israel for all what happened. And I think this is sabotaging the image of the United States all over the world. Excuse me. So I think that, yes, there is no other way but to go for this deep diplomacy to implement all the previous international resolutions that really the world has already taken and agreed on. And I think that now the time is so right for that. And there are some meetings. I hope this meeting will come out with something positive. Enough is enough, as we say.
Do you think one day we can see this international community can put sanctions on the Israelis for all this sabotage and all this what is taking place in Palestine?
Yes, many people, even inside Israel themselves, they say that Netanyahu is taking the war to this level, this ongoing tracks for him not to be punished, for him not to be tried. And I think this is a legitimate argument inside Israel itself, outside Israel, all over the world. People became aware of that. So I think the time is so right for taking real on-the-ground measures that would really put a stop on these crimes and to punish those who really are responsible for it. This is supposed to be a world that needs to get back to the right track.
And I think also Egypt included in its statement talking about the violations, especially when it comes to the violation of borders also starting from the 1967.
Yes, I think that the Egyptian leadership and Egypt has already exerted a great deal of restraint and tried to get this kind of conflict into an end. And the Egyptian diplomacy really is clear in their moves. And I hope that, but we have to be much more collective. We have the Arab League and we have the Summit for Islamic Countries. They really convened in November and they came up with a resolution. I think there should be an Arab Islamic resolution and moves, not only resolution. The resolution is not enough. We have modalities, we have power, we have rights. The most important thing, we have legitimate rights. So these legitimate rights should be followed by some good, effective implementing acts on the ground. And this is my call for all diplomacies, Arab diplomacies and Arab Islamic diplomacies, of course. And I am urging all international power who are trying to be fair-minded, I hope, to come back to their senses and do the right thing.
Right. Dr. Hassan Wagih, Professor of Political Science, thank you very much for joining us. And moving on to a quick break, then we'll be back.